Let's move on to our next topic. But before then, guys, if you're enjoying this content, if you're enjoying what we're doing here, well then hit that follow button. Hit that follow button right now. Make sure the notifications are on, so you're not going live. I do this all the time, 6 days a week. I have these amazing individuals coming through, right, or playing video games, one or the other, right. So if you want to be a part of this community, hit that follow button right now. We'd love to have you. Or if you're watching this later on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And help out the channel with subs and super chats and all that good stuff. It's a huge help. Xwitch social in Twitch chat for our social media. We got Twitter where we tweet things, Discord where we have our conversation. We have a lot of conversations on Discord. Join us in our Discord. We'd love to have you there. And we have our open welcome panels, which we'll have right after this, right? So if you want to join that, join our Discord. We'd love to have you. TikToks, we find funny videos related to the channel, and YouTube's where you find the VODs. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go on to the next topic, which is on social media platforms, there is a growing problem in which drug dealers are selling products to children. Some of those children go on to overdose and die. Several new bills in Congress seek to address this, including Sammy's Law. This bill will force platforms to allow parents to track their child's activity through the use of third-party apps. This law, and others like it, have been criticized on privacy grounds. Are you in favor of this bill? Are the privacy concerns overblown? Should we fear unintended consequences, such as these tools being used to track adults? So yeah, this is a completely different topic from what we just discussed. I'm just learning of this issue, but it makes sense. Drug dealers are using social media to reach people, right? It just makes sense to use a platform to do that. And sometimes kids, they're targeting children to get them. The people in this article, they were parents of children who died of fentanyl overdoses. So they bought something, had some fentanyl, and they died from it tragically. And so those parents want to do something about that, and they're pushing various laws. Sammy's Law is one of them, but there are other laws as well. Pushing that to regulate social media platforms to have more accountability here. But not everyone agrees on those. So I'm really curious what you all have to say about this. I think maybe we might have some interesting debates on that. So let's go to our friend Wick.
Yeah, so we grow into our rights as people. A child does not have all the rights, right, that we afford to the average citizen. I think the right to privacy is important. But when it comes to these social media apps, when it comes to the internet, parents absolutely have both the right and I feel the responsibility to keep track of what their children are doing on the internet, right? We need this law, specifically Sammy's Law, is a good law. Let's pass this shit. Right, let's get it passed. Look, there are concerns. The devil's in the details with these things, right? And I think that there is some risk of overbearing, some parents being overbearing, but those risks pale in comparison to the risks of not tracking your child's activities on the internet, right? And not just for drugs, but for all sorts of issues. Do you really want them to be listening to anarcho-capitalists? Do you want your child exposed to that kind of nonsense at an early age? Absolutely not. Any responsible adult would keep their child from such drivel and craziness. This is worse than drugs, in my opinion. But yeah, on a more serious note, less memery. You absolutely you need to keep track of children's activities on the internet, and parents have both the right and the responsibility to do so. Let's pass this law.
Wick has just won this panel. All right, we might as well shut this thing down. But just in case, uh, if there are any parents out there, right? Gotta amicable cap. But for our friend Scott, please go ahead.
Yeah, so the first thing I'd like to say is to Samuel and Laura Berman, go fuck yourself. I don't care that your kid died. The fact that you're a bad parent and you can't keep your kids off Snapchat and he died of a fentanyl overdose, I don't need you and your government to protect me from shitty parents like you. First of all, this law is fucking insane. Don't let your fucking kids on Snapchat. Point blank, period. The idea that we need the government to come in and tell corporations and businesses that they need third-party apps so that they can track what their kids are doing on Snapchat because parents are too fucking stupid to not let their kids have Snapchat and not pay attention to what they're doing is shitty parents. We don't need a nanny state to try and fix shitty parents. And what is the dangers of allowing that nanny state to come in and fix shitty parents? Well, the dangers is Sammy's law is not the only law here. There's another law, Chats, right, that requires backdoor access for all law enforcement agencies so that they can track whether or not drugs and things of that nature are being sold via social media and they can put out reports. This is exactly the real reason that the Democrats and Republicans are agreeing on this is because it allows for more vulnerabilities and allows the state to have more ways of being able to track communications online. And it makes it so that other smaller companies like Gab and Parler and BitChute and Odyssey and Rumble have more financial risk and are less able to engage in the same social media activities by creating financial burdens that maintains an oligopoly so that the state can maintain its censorship. So yeah, pretty much that. The last thing I'll say is Sammy's law. First of all, anybody supporting this law is a fucking idiot because nobody can read this fucking law yet. All we know is that Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the same person that stepped down from the DNC after she cheated for Hillary Clinton against Bernie Sanders and is nothing but a fucking neoliberal DNC shill, and now manages in Florida over top of Broward County, and it couldn't be anything sus about her. She's writing a law and she tells us supposedly what's going to be in it. And the idea that you would support a law that you've never even fucking looked at and you don't even know what's in it is just as stupid. So that's what I'd have to say. Don't create additional vulnerabilities. Don't allow the state to track your shit, and don't create a nanny state to deal with shitty parents. And all of you parents that can't cope with the fact that you killed your kids because you didn't watch their social media or raise them appropriately, you don't need the fucking government to add an additional fucking program backdoor access for you.
Scott, as always, shy of his opinion. All right, a little bit of wallflower there. Thanks so much, Scott. We'll get his thoughts out of him someday. All right, let's go to Isle, please.
If you're the type of parent who thinks that the only things you need to look after your kids is Xbox Live and a crack pipe, you shouldn't be a parent. And if you're the type of person who's so negligent that you just let your child go out in the middle of the night to like the park at like 3 a.m. to do like back alley, public bathroom orgies where they're doing shooting up heroin laced with fentanyl and they get an overdose and die on the floor of a dirty bathroom, well then that's on you because you should have been on top of that, my guy. And it doesn't matter if it was from Snapchat. It doesn't matter if it was from, Greg, the local pedophile. You should have been on top of your kids, making sure that's it's your responsibility to make sure your children are safe. I remember as a child, I'm young, but I still remember in the early 2000s, late 90s. Like, my family used to watch Fox a lot. And at 10, there was always the notification, it's 10 a.m., it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Well, you need to know where your children are. Obviously, these guys did not know where their children's were, and their children's were getting fentanyl in their veins, and they died. That's what happened. And so I don't think that we should punish the rest of us with with like authoritarian backdoor technocracy, people spying on us, trying to like social engineer us via algorithms and trying to find out what we're doing, who we're sending dick pics and soliciting breast pics from. That's not cool. We shouldn't have that. I don't want that. I don't want that to be our world. I don't want the PCNF's community to be disrupted by having their illicit photos and meetups, raided by FBI agents. I don't want that for the PCNF community as I am a member. And so, no, we cannot allow this to happen. I'm sorry, it's a tragedy when a child dies, because just like Whitney said, children are the future. But like also what we just said, we have to raise them right and let them show us the, show them the proper way so they can show us the beauty they possess inside, okay? And they can't show us the beauty they possess inside if all their veins are exploded from an overdose of fentanyl, okay? They're dead. They're gone. It's too late for those kids. It's not too late for all the other
Okay,
kids alive.
gotcha.
So
Okay,
parents, you need to be
thank
better
you.
parents. Thank you. That was just a quick PSA. Thank you.
Uh, uh, Iberis, all the kids are dead because you have not kept track of them.
Yeah,
Iberis.
like I feel bad right now because I originally had like some opening statements that I was gonna go, and the last two speakers have kind of walked me back from that. I'm like, all right, no, we're not doing this. So I might split the middle here. Number one, every time that you have a parent tell their kids, no, you can't do something, it's almost like an encouragement for the kid to go find a way to fucking do it. I hate this, but we all were teenagers at one point, and like, there's just a level where you can police your kids, but only to a certain point. And the problem is like, as they grow older and as they get more freedom, because you're going to give them opportunities to succeed and fail, is that they're going to have like opportunities for mistakes and horrible shit to happen. It sucks, but yeah, like I've had kids in high school who passed away because they did the wrong things. Like, it sucks. It's the reality. Here's the other side of this. Should parents be very concerned about what is going on online? Yes. Maybe we should have a backdoor so that you can have a guaranteed third-party app if you're gonna have your kid online. But I'll put it in this regard: every report that that I have seen for the last 5 years indicates that Gen Z being online is indicating that we are seeing rapid amounts of antisocial, emotionally distraught, and mentally distraught behaviors coming out of them, to where, as an example, suicide is almost doubled among the younger age group it's almost doubled. I cannot talk today, apparently. I'm not gonna be like the guy that says, "Hey, look, we gotta shut all the kids off the internet," but we have to come with the realization here that we have to be very cautious about what they're going to be engaged with on the internet, because it's horrible for them. You'll remember getting bullied back in high school. Well, now it follows you home. So, like, that's a really big issue. But on the other side of that is that, can you force this shit? Like, almost like the government tells you that you can't do this. Like, the kids are just gonna be like, "Fuck you, government, let's go." So I just don't know what the solution is here, and I thank you for letting me have this intro.
Thank you so much. I'll put our friend Lactoid.
Well, I also had an intro written, and I don't know. I don't agree. There's probably going to be a lot of disagreement about this. When you lose a child to a drug overdose, the idea that we can just say "fuck you," like, be better parents, I think is a little bit heartless, and I also don't think it's productive, and I don't think it's within the realm of reality. This idea that parents should always be able to know what their kids are up to on technology that they themselves didn't grow up with and they don't know all the intricacies of, where you can have younger kids who know this technology better and are preyed upon by people on these devices, and in this case, killed. I think it's fair that the parents are upset. I think it's fair that they want something to be done about this. I think we should be discussing like the specific policy implications and trying to make sure we narrowly tailor any kind of bill we do pass. But yeah, no, I've argued this for a while, right? Children don't have these rights that adults have. They should be under direct supervision from parents, teachers, and other adults that are tasked with protecting them. And in fact, one of my main problems with this is that I think there should actually be less of a burden put on the parents and more of a burden put on the companies, right? Snapchat should actually have things in place to not allow adults to prey on children. This shouldn't even be a thing, right? Like pornographic websites or websites that pedophiles can find these kids should have protections in place to prevent this from happening, and not rely on a parent who may be too busy or may be absent to take care of a kid. Because at the end of the day, if you're a kid and you got a parent that's absent, You know, it's easy to say, well, fuck you, you should have had better parents, but they're dead and they didn't choose their parents, okay? They were born in that situation. They didn't pick their parents. And as a child, they were manipulated by somebody to buy drugs, and they died of a fentanyl overdose. I think it's a tragedy. No, I think saying "fuck you, parents, you should have done a better job." I think that's reprehensible, but that's just.
Oh, you're a stand-up individual, Lactoid. So of course. Let's go to our friend Sprouticus, please.
Of course it's reprehensible. Of course it's reprehensible to say "fuck you, parents, you should have done a better job," and I don't give a fuck that your kid died. That was absolutely disgusting. Um, I I was gonna say no, that I don't think this should exist, and that was simply based off of the idea of abusive parents. That this causes too much of a risk in my mind for abusive parents to have more control over their kids to where they can't reach out for help. I was gonna say no because of that, but somehow the talking points that have happened so far on this panel are gonna make me say yes. Like they've gone so fucking far that it's like, you know what, I'm gonna say yes now because obviously the rewards are greater than the risks. So yeah, I think it should exist.
Wick and Lactoid W already. Okay.
Huh. So we'll go next to our. I didn't say Doobie. Fuck. Doobie. I don't know why you insist on giving myself and my audience nightmares, right? But thank you so much.
It's a
Doobie,
beautiful
please.
picture. That picture is 100% generated by AI based on my inputs. By the way, it's very cool.
Oh wow. Okay, please go
Yeah, it's
ahead.
cool. Very, very nice picture. So I just got to say, I think it's super interesting that some people on this panel right now are willing to set aside what I think are their principles and their convictions because somebody said something really harshly on while backing the position that they would have had. I think that's a little weird. I think if you have a position, you should probably stick to it, even if somebody promoting that position is an asshole. That being said, I think it's totally fine for the government to have backdoors into these apps. I think these companies should be held liable for what's going on in their apps. Snapchat, Discord, fucking Instagram, etc. These things are full of pedophilia, child porn being exchanged, drugs being sold, prostitution, underage prostitution. Right, this is all over the fucking place on these apps. Yeah, the government should have a way to look in and make sure that this stuff isn't happening. When it is happening, it's caught and dealt with. Right? And yeah, so I don't understand why we'd be opposed to that unless you're just okay with like child porn being freely sold on these applications.
Last but not least, we have a new person here. We're very happy to have them. Their name is FK. Hello, hi, thanks for being here. So you know which topic we're on. So you can give us an intro to the topic and also introduce yourself to the audience, please.
All right, I'll introduce myself first. Hey guys, I'm FK. I'm new to Twitch. I had just started. I did like a test stream yesterday, basically just to get everything set up. But I'm hopefully going to be streaming more often. First, I want to build off of what Doobie said. Right, actually, it's even more disgusting that some of these people came in here with a certain idea of what they were going to say, and just because the people said what they said, they're going to change their mind. When I heard them say what they said, I didn't change my mind. My mind was made up. What they're saying is fucking disgusting. You can't blame a parent for not having the tools necessary to deal with these problems that we're dealing with in our modern era, right? The internet is so accessible, and even if you put on these blockers, you can put on all these things you want to, but there's workarounds, and kids will find those workarounds. All you're saying is, I know that you're not equipped for this problem, but fuck you, your kid died, your kid got raped, whatever happened to your kid happened, and it's not our problem. You're so scared of the government having some ability to keep our children safe, keep us safe as a society, that you're willing to, like, just because of what? You're scared that the government might see you sold a joint to someone? If you're selling joints in a state where it's illegal, you should be arrested. You should be held in charge for what you've done. I'm going to end out there. We'll build off from wherever this goes.
Okay, so
Thanks so much.
I need to clarify
if I may,
something.
just
Right here in the chat.
just
Someone
real
was said
quick,
about
if
me.
I may.
Okay, so we'll go to Lactoid and Wick.
Okay, so
Okay.
just to
I've been
clarify,
attacked multiple times. Okay.
Okay, so
Just
sorry, we'll go Lactoid, Wick. I also since you were attacked. You feel you were attacked. All right, then our friend Sproticus, right?
Okay, just to clarify, like, I did not change my position. I have it written down. I have the intro written down, right? I do think these
He's
Talk
talking about
about me.
Sprout.
Don't
Sprout
talk
doesn't
about
have
me.
it.
Okay,
Talk
okay,
about
okay.
me.
Well, there was said some people, you can defend yourself, Sprout. I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm going to speak for myself here. I do have the position that we do have an obligation to protect children from harm. I just modified the rhetoric slightly because of some of the things that were said beforehand. So
Beta.
just to clarify that.
So
Let's-
I have 2 points, right? And the first point is kind of just to the people who are saying, how dare you change your mind? Yo, if you get more information, you hear an argument that makes you change your position, change your position. Don't die on these weird hills just because, oh my goodness, I'll look inconsistent. No, if someone makes it, if you are convinced, go with what convinces you. That's how you should do it. As
There
you get
was no
more
argument
information on a
made.
topic, you should
If you're just changing
100%
your mind because somebody
change your
said something
mind.
mean, then you're not
Like,
really
look,
changing your mind
it's
for a good reason.
okay,
You didn't
so
even
why
change your
talk
mind.
about
You're
me?
just
I like
mean,
to
and
I
you want to
will
be nice
support
about
And
it.
we
But
knew
to
this
the
about
point,
Sprout
to
already.
the
We
point,
already
just
knew
real quick,
Sprout was
to
the
the
least
point,
right-wing right-winger on fucking Twitch.
He's
to the point.
not right.
We're
Wrong.
talking
To
about
the
me.
point
Am I
of
allowed
the
to talk, or are
panel.
you both going to argue
To
about
the
me?
point of the panel. For those of you who are
There's people who
scared that
have
the
been arguing
government,
about me, so
things
I'm
like
going to
this,
talk.
to
Actually,
those of you who are
Oh
scared that the
yeah,
government is
yeah.
going to be
They're
able to track
currently
you
arguing about you.
online with laws like these, I got some news for you, gang. They can see whatever the fuck they want that you're doing online right now. They don't need these laws. They've been doing it for a long, long time, and they'll continue to do it. This laws ain't
And
going
they
to
should
make
be
it
mandatory
any easier
reporters.
for them to do that. What's going to happen is parents, right? Parents who might want to keep track of what their child does online, which they should as responsible parents, will have another tool that allows them to do so. That's a good thing. Like, look, we can look at the devil is in the details. And if the bill itself comes out and it's got some dog shit wording and things like that, we could take another crack at it, right? But conceptually, the idea that the companies should provide access to let parents see what their children do online, that's a great thing. I stand that. That's a good thing. Do you disagree, Prime?
No, I'm like shocked by like the
Doobie's picture.
nightmare fuel.
Beautiful.
Oh
that Doobie
man, I
put on the
can't speak
screen,
to that.
no.
But that's what I had to say.
Let's go to Al, then Sprout. Sprout has a lot
Right,
to
yeah.
respond to, but Al, please.
because it seems like me and Fabian, because we're a bit more, I guess, taking the more, I guess you can say, libertarian position on this
Sociopath.
issue. I think we're getting a lot of heat here. I think we're getting a lot of
Libertarian
heat
as
here. We're
fuck,
getting a
you
lot
The
of
libertarian position. Your kid died and they deserved it. I'm a
Listen, no, I didn't say that. I never said the kids deserved it. That's why I said I'm being attacked because
The
I
parents
think we're
deserve
being
to have the kids
misconstrued. We
die.
never said that the kids deserved it. It is, yes, because it's a tragedy when a kid dies. No one is saying that we like kids dying. We want kids to not die, obviously. But we're saying that there is a certain lack, a certain failure, a certain dropping of the ball that obviously had to have taken place for these kids to be allowed to somehow stumble themselves onto Snapchat, stumble themselves onto the wrong pages where they got into a drug deal, went out,
stumble onto
purchased said
Snapchat, one of the
drugs,
biggest.
Okay then. So parents should have been knowing that this is Snapchat is a site that kids can go on, and then these kids somehow, I guess apparently as the story goes, stumbled onto the wrong site, wrong pages on Snapchat, got into a drug deal.
You don't
and the
stumble on the
deal
pages on
was
Snapchat.
bad.
There's no pages on Snapchat.
Right.
You don't
Okay,
find,
then how
you
do
don't
these
just
kids
walk
get
the
that?
pages.
How old
They
is
talk-
everyone
They
here?
send
Yeah, you
pictures
have-
to people. They send texts to people that disappear instantaneously or after 24 hours.
So what you
So
have
this
is
is all
one
How
lies
did
in
these
the
kids get to a
targeting
drug
program.
deal? How did these kids
This
get
is-
to a drug deal then?
No,
This
this
is
is
drug
all.
deal is
This is
targeted.
Okay, so
This
here's
is
how
all
it works.
lies and
If you
code.
really want to know how it works and you live in a big city, you can go around. You can find little stickers, you can find little post-it notes with like UR or little QR codes. You can scan that, and people are just selling that shit everywhere. The
And the
problem
idea that
is
these only happen
that
at night
these companies
too.
aren't
And so
being
as
held
a-
accountable for just letting that shit happen. It's even more annoying considering these companies have access to all the information that's being sent through them, but they're not doing anything about it.
No, this is all lies and
Now,
code.
I-
Right?
now
No,
I
I'm
get
gonna
to
respond.
respond.
Let's Sprout,
I
let's
get to
Sprout,
defend
Sprout,
myself
Now,
Mr.
like I'm
before
saying,
you
let me
do.
finish.
So
Let me finish, 'cause I didn't even get to finish my
okay.
point. I didn't
Oh,
even finish my point.
okay. Al, finish up your thing. Then we're gonna go to Sprout. Then we'll go to our friend Scott.
Okay, I'm not someone who's on Snapchat, so obviously, because I don't know the inner workings, I can understand how, like these parents that don't know the inner workings, they could drop the ball. But that doesn't excuse the fact that there is an objective factor. They dropped the ball somehow, way or another. I'm not sure how Snapchat works, but somehow these kids accessed the drug deal via Snapchat, got some drugs, died from a fentanyl overdose, and now they're in the ground dead. So obviously something happened that was bad. Horrible tragedy. Kids died. Like I said, always bad when kids die. They shouldn't be dying from drug overdoses. We all agree about this. But I think that parents need to figure out how to keep their children safe. And I think that we shouldn't be trying to go for the technocratic route of just, let's like get some like backdoor access here and there, and let's like have people spy on everybody out in the open and craziness. I think there's other ways to do this, like in the 80s, the stranger danger. I think we can do something like that. We can have some PSAs. We can actually have some
Do you think that worked?
meetings where we learn about how to Snapchat. Well, I mean, people stopped after Stranger Danger. People were less likely to get snapped up by the local pedophile in the candy van.
Yeah,
now,
but
did
stranger
they?
danger is
Now it
easy
worked.
when you can see your kids. It's not easy when your kid is in your house doing all of these things.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You need to have a better eye on your kid. You have to like be careful
No,
with your
you gotta
kid.
think about
'cause,
like
I mean, I don't
any
think
You know what would
computer,
be
any
helpful to
phone,
have a better eye
any
on your kid? A
smartphone, any
program that
computer
let
that
you
these
see
kids
what
have
they were
access
doing
to
online.
is a
Right.
portal to drug dealers and pedophiles. Like
Let's
they're
go.
carrying out a literal portal to drug dealers and pedophiles in their fucking pocket.
Oh man, that's
the
one hell.
parents should be aware of that and like not let them have phones.
But you,
until
sorry,
they're
sorry,
They are
Ahan,
aware
Alex,
of it,
Alex,
but how
you
can
literally
they stop?
you literally weren't aware of how Snapchat works, right? So you would have failed this test easily, right? Like you didn't
Your
know,
baby to be dead.
right?
No,
Like
I don't.
Dead,
No.
raped, and murdered.
No.
If
because
you were a
weren't
parent,
paying attention.
right now, your kid would be in a
No.
bathroom overdosing and their veins exploding. And then
And if-
you would be like, well, I guess I can only blame myself,
No, I
and
wouldn't.
everyone should just
and if
blame
you,
me for
and
this.
if you
No, I
had
wouldn't.
and if you had a child
No, I
right
wouldn't, 'cause
now,
I'd have
and if
an
you
eye
had
on
a
my kids.
child
I
right
wouldn't let
now,
them. I
and
wouldn't
if
let
you
them
had
go
a
into
child
drug
right
deals.
now, by the time
You
they're old
wouldn't
enough
let
to
them use
use
the
social
bathroom?
media, there'd be something else that you had no fucking clue of. Right? So just, let's go to our friend Sprouticus and then Scott.
So a lot of people are mad that I changed my position. I was going to argue no, simply on the basis that it can help parents that are abusing their children. I was going to argue no
Straight up.
simply on that basis. And if that basis got fixed, then my answer would be yes. I then decided to switch it, right? To argue yes, but then I was also going to argue behind it, but this is an issue with it. This is something we have to fix. Because this very well can result in parents being more abusive to their kids and the kids having less people to reach out to. The kids are going to have less people to reach out to because
If these
they're
parents
going
wanted
there's
to,
a
like,
back there's a
abuse
back
their
there's a
kids, why
back
wouldn't they
door to
just
my
take the phone
phone.
away?
I'm sorry?
If the parents wanted to abuse their kids, why wouldn't they just take the phone away if like that's a concern?
Because there's rules in abusive households, and typically the parents trust the kids to stay quiet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. It doesn't make fucking sense. I was really
I think
stupid.
the
Okay,
only way
so
then the only way
let me
to deal with your problem would be to have the companies held accountable instead of just giving the data to parents, right? We should just hold these companies accountable and force them to deal
Yes.
with these problems when they
Yeah,
arise.
I agree.
They should be
Hold the
mandatory
companies
reporters.
accountable.
All
Yeah,
right,
hold the
so
companies accountable.
let me explain to you why you guys are all fucking coping. Number one, the idea that first of all, again, Samuel and Laura, fuck them, right? And the reason I'm saying fuck them is not because they lost a fucking kid. I'm saying fuck them because they're using that trauma as a means to try and blame companies because they weren't active in their child's life. They're trying to blame Snapchat like it's somehow fucking Snapchat's fault that their kid died of heroin. It's not fucking Snapchat's fault. It's society, it's whatever mental illness they had, it's their active role as parents, et cetera, et cetera. Now, here's the thing is these bills are fucking lies. And let me explain to you why these bills are fucking lies. Sammy's Law doesn't need to exist in any way, shape, or form because for $14 a fucking month, you can get Bark. Bark works with Snapchat and Bark works with fucking Discord. And it uses keyword searches and advanced AI as well as location tracking. And for $14 a month, you can see a screen recorder using AI to see every message, every Discord message, every single solitary Snapchat, even if it's deleted, even if it's just thrown because it's tracking what's on the screen, as well as your kids' fucking current location. If you don't have $14 a month to be a good to fucking make sure that you know what your kids are doing online, and because you're not involved because you're too busy at work, then you probably shouldn't have kids. Like there's a serious problem if you can't afford $14 a month to
Why are
know what
we
your kids are doing
offloading the
online.
costs onto the parents when the company should be
Oh, with
at
this
least
fucking
They're
because if
kids.
you
somewhat
offload
responsible?
the
What
cost,
is this
because you
nonsense?
offload,
Scott,
because if you
you're
offload,
talking
because if you
nonsense
offload, if
right
you
now.
offload
You're
the
talking
fucking
nonsense right now.
because
The
if you
only person
offload,
whose fault
because if
this
you
was,
offload,
the main
because
person
if you
whose fault this
Okay,
was,
okay,
was
because
the
if you
drug
hey,
dealer.
hey,
Was
let
the
Scott
drug
respond.
dealer. Yeah.
Because
Was
if
the,
you offload the
Oh my
costs
God.
onto fucking companies and you make them responsible for legal action, what you do is you further create a monopoly on who can and can't make a social media platform in the country, which makes it further easier to control by law enforcement, further easier to control by individuals that want to engage in censorious activities online.
I don't
and you
care about your
destroy
conspiracy.
freedom
I
of
care about
speech.
kids. I don't care about your fucking
Think of the
conspiracies,
kids
your
is
nonsense,
always
your
the
brain
fucking
rot.
thing that
I
they
care about
say
children,
before they bring in
right?
authoritarian bullshit.
Yeah, I
you
feel
fucking
so bad.
tyrannical
I
monster.
feel so bad for these companies. I feel so horrible for these companies as they're making millions off of the backs of kids that are getting raped, kids that are dying of overdoses. Considering so many more kids are dying like recent as of recently.
Yeah,
This is actually disgusting. This is actually legitimately
you're
disgusting.
fucking disgusting.
This is a higher
you're a
rate. But I guess
fucking
your
terrible
opinion. I
person.
guess your opinion is
very
just these kids are just dying because the parents have gotten worse. The quality of parents have gotten worse. Not so many other factors that get bark. Like when the internet was coming out and there was like 15 other different surveillance things you could get for your kids, but all of those had workarounds and everybody kept working around them as time went on, and kids still kept finding workarounds.
You think
Because guess what? It's
this
fun
is
to
the
break the rules.
dumbest fucking argument ever. First, you say that I just hate kids or that I think parents are getting worse. I recognize that social media is dangerous. That's why I said don't let your kid have Snapchat because it's for dick pics.
I don't think you
and
hate kids. I
tidbits.
think you just hold
Second
kids
of
at
all,
lesser value than some random right you made up.
some random right I've made up.
No,
That's
he
not,
likes
like,
companies more than
I
children.
like
That's
rights.
straight up.
No,
if a
I
company,
like
if a
I
company
like
could be
having
saved by him
competition
putting
and
children in danger,
Yeah,
you
you
would do it in a
like-
heartbeat.
I'm not putting
I'm
fucking
against
children
it.
in
You know what?
danger. You numbnuts. You think the fucking government is going to create a program that's so fucking amazing that's actually going to save all of these fucking
The
children?
government's not
No,
gonna
it's going to be a
create it.
shitty
The
program.
government's,
They can
the
just hold,
government's not
and then
going
there's
to
just
create
going
it.
to
They're
be
going to hold
less
the
fucking
companies liable for creating it. They're not going to
right.
create
And then
it
we're
themselves.
not going to have freedom of speech.
Yes,
you
we
dumb
are.
fuck.
Yes, we are.
Let's go to our
Fucking
friend
dumbass.
Lactoid.
Actually, no, it doesn't even make
Okay.
sense. It doesn't even make sense.
So
You don't
Your
even know what
argument's literally
Snapchat
just
is.
think
wait,
of
wait,
the
wait,
kids.
wait, hold on. So okay,
It's okay.
You sound like a fucking 1990s Republican.
Fabian's
You over
position
that
is
shit?
okay. Scott's position is obviously not. I care about companies more than children. Let's be fair. Okay, there is like a valid criticism here, and I think that he did maybe a service. I've never heard of Bark before. I know there's some surveillance programs. I didn't know that they applied to Snapchat and Discord on your phone and stuff. So I think it's good. Maybe we should get the word out there to like,
It's in the
like
article
these
I
options
sent
do right. So, but these options like do right. But before I read the article, I never heard of
Oh,
what Bark
okay.
was, right? And so like these services can be helpful, and we should shout those out. We should talk about it. But this idea that okay. First of all, I don't think that in order to be a good parent, you have to be monitoring your children at all times. I just don't think it's the case, right? In fact, we're monitoring our children more now than ever. And the other thing is, if the goal here is to save children, we also should recognize that there are going to be irresponsible people who have kids. And there's going to be children with irresponsible parents. I agree. These companies, like, maybe not like hold them like legally liable for some of this shit, like to the extent where we bankrupt them or whatever. But there should be like rules that come in that say, hey, look, if you're under 18, you should be in a different cohort than the people over 18. And this kid room, like this kiddies room, like that's monitored. Okay, that makes sense to me, right? You have like the unmonitored. You can prove you're over 18. Okay, now you get this act service, right? But if you're under 18, if you can't prove you're over 18, you should be in a different cohort. You should be separated from adults who could manipulate you.
We grow into our rights. We grow
right.
into our rights.
How
It's
do you do
a standard conceptual, like legally, right? It's culturally. We grow into our rights. We do not get the same rights to a 5-year-old that we give to an 18-year-old person, and for good
All children
reasons, right?
we
Good
also-
reasons we don't do this. We
real
need to
quick,
give parents the
Lactoid.
tools. We need to give parents the tools in order to better take care of their kids, and this is a good, necessary tool. Kids, like, look. At the end of the day, companies
Why do
can
you need a
afford
law?
this. Parents cannot. Companies
can't
can
afford
afford it.
$14
Parents
a
cannot.
month. What are you advocating? Like what you're advocating for already
It's
exists.
ridiculous.
And instead, what you don't realize that you're advocating for is bills like chats that require government surveillance and backdoor
We ain't talking
access.
about that
The
bill.
other
That
thing-
bill wasn't in the prompt. That bill wasn't being
Yes, it
discussed.
is.
You were
It's
bringing it up
literally in the
because
article that
the
was sent
other
to you,
bill
but you can't fucking read it.
doesn't like fucking support your point. That's the only reason you're doing it.
It's literally in the article that was sent to you. First of all. Second of all, the Debbie Wasserman Schultz bill, Sammy's Law, isn't written. So I can't see that fucking bill. I'm talking about a bill I can read. Third of
Wait,
all,
so Scott,
these programs already exist. And so you have to ask yourself, why are they making it a law that the social media platforms must
Because the
institute
social media
something that
platforms have
already
failed
exists?
in their responsibilities, and people
Something
die.
something already exists for $14 a month. And what you're advocating for is legislation that requires something that
You're
already
damn
exists.
right I am.
wait, so
So
Scott,
you have to
Scott,
ask
Keeping a
yourself,
company that
why
failed
is that
accountable,
doing that?
keeping a company that failed society accountable. Yes, that's what we're asking for. Social media has failed society on more than 5 counts. Okay, keeping social media reliable. Keeping social media like accountable to what they've done, to how they fucked up, is more than okay in my book.
Spartacus, have you ever heard of chilling effect doctrine?
This is
Like-
not the chilling effect doctrine, but keep trying.
So how is it not a chilling effect if we have to institute ID laws like Lactoid is advocating, right? Where individuals
laws.
can no longer have anonymity because you have to prove you're over 18 in order to engage with one section and then the other. That would absolutely
Whoa! Do you not
Can I-
think you should
can I
have child
explain?
like? Do you not think we should have age gates on things? Do you think you should let children access pornography?
what in
Prove
what
that you're 18.
stupid
Do you
fucking
need?
org-
Do you think? Are you
So-
advocating right now that children should be able to to access pornography? That they should
Obviously,
be
I'm
checked?
not.
Then obviously you're okay with age gates in certain circumstances.
I'm
Obvious.
not okay. I'm not okay with the government requiring
How do you
that
prove
social
the
media
age gate?
platforms require that you have
Are you
IDs
okay
and they track
with
who you are.
company
wrong
with
with
the
that?
government requiring pornographic companies and pornographic platforms? Are you okay with the government requiring them to age gate the material from children?
No, not at all.
Wow. Okay. Well, you can
So
you
you
can
why
die
would
on
I
that
be
hill.
okay?
I'll let
So
you
what
die.
do you-
They're
you
not
want
required
kids
to
to
do
watch
that
porn.
now.
You're a fucking parent. Be one.
Let's go.
So you want kids to watch porn.
What is this, like a panel full of Kathy Newmans
Wait,
and I'm the only
wait,
fucking
no.
Let's
Jordan
go.
It's not
Peterson
even
here?
just that. It's
Oh,
worse.
yeah,
Wait.
like,
It's worse than
I
that.
think
It's worse than
me
that
and
because
Lummi and
recently
I are just-
Pornhub
we're being attacked.
Recently, Pornhub had a big problem where they had a lot of people who were underage creating content or having content of them created. Why wouldn't we just have these people actually have to show their IDs before they can get on these sites, before they can make content, before they can do any of these things on every site? And if sites don't have these people go through the process of giving IDs, then they should be held accountable.
Let's go.
Because I don't
Lactoid-
want
Yeah.
I don't want this
Lactoid-
state abusing its ability to fucking track people and their IDs and having access to these
Lactoid,
things.
you
So-
want to say something? We'll give that to you. Then Doobie, I think, wanted to break in as well.
Yeah, the actual
No, no,
system.
no, no,
I've thought about like pragmatically how we would do this system. I would require that companies and internet providers have age gates, and I would want to do it in a way that would allow people to remain anonymous to the sites that they go on. One idea I had is that you implement a program through like your like whoever issues your driver's license, so like the Department of Transportation for your particular state. They,
Well-
in addition to giving you like the information from your driver's license, they also have a portal on their website that you enter in your information and you get like a key. They give you like a
Lactoid.
CD key or something, but then you
Like
type in
ID
this
me.
whole real quick. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Like ID me.
Yeah, and you put that key into like the websites and it doesn't do anything besides confirm your age. And the only people you're giving the information to is the DOT, who, if you have a driver's license, already has your information to begin with. So then you enter in that key, you get access to the site that may have drug trading, may have pornography, may
You're
have
not-
shit that we just don't want kids to get into. We
You're
card people going into bars. We card people going into strip clubs. Like,
That's
why not?
what you're doing. What you're doing is advocating for mass collection of metadata. What you're doing is tying IDs to social media posts. and to certain and
You're not
creating
tying
metadata.
an
You're
ID
making
to
it
it. No, wait.
easier.
You're not tying the
You're making it
ID.
easy.
You're not tying the ID to a social media post. What you're doing is having a random key generated by the DOT. You type in that random key into the website. The random key goes through, and it's like, yes, this is a valid key. And then, bada bing, bada boom, it's
Yes.
verified.
And now if you're over 18, you're
this
good.
state isn't going to use that as a means of being able to track what everyone does on social
You are
media to a higher.
fear-mongering
It's
to
the
the extreme.
DOT. They already have
Bro,
that information.
Maybe your problem is you should just work
you have
to
a
get
driver's
state that you can
license-
trust a little bit more.
He's
No,
saying
hold on.
he-
This is not.
no,
Wait, this is not about trusting the state. This is not about trusting the state. You're giving your
But
information.
that's
to
his
the-
whole problem with.
Well,
You're
I-
advocating
I- well,
real
I-
ID
I-
for
I-
fucking social
No.
media.
No, I'm not advocating. Stop. Don't. I criticize other people for strawmanning you. Okay, this is not what I'm advocating for. Okay, you're only giving your information to the DOT. They already have your information. They give you an anonymous key that you can enter into websites that simply confirms you're over 18. That's the policy I would support. And if you're not over 18, you don't get to get into any pornography sites. You don't get like Discord and Snapchat and shit. These should be age gapped where like you have a kids section and like an adult section. Like we do this at bars. We don't let underage people go into bars or strip clubs. Why is it that I can't get into a strip club to see titties, but I can at any age type in like hardcore pornography and no one's gonna stop me?
So hold on. So let me try to help you out. Let me try to help you out.
No, my parents
Scott
are dead.
here.
They don't.
Parent,
But nobody
stop it.
cares.
I don't think. I think what Scott is trying
This
to
bill
say
doesn't matter
that, like,
because it only
yes,
gives you.
Scott's trying to
criticism of the
say
bill.
that and if I'm wrong, Scott, you can correct me. But like I think at least part of what you're trying to say is that like we can't trust the government to simply anonymize these things or keep it anonymous, right? You can start if it being anonymous, but like the metadata that is created, like we can see that a bad actor could come in and somehow undermine the system, right? That these systems aren't foolproof. And you're generating metadata that might be able to use against
That's
individuals.
part of my
Dude,
That's part of it. It's part of your
What
argument. I know it's
metadata?
not all of it. That's
Not
not.
with a randomized key inside a blockchain.
Yeah, the randomized keys don't create metadata. What do you mean by metadata?
The idea that you would even begin to trust.
Why are we
the
suddenly
This is
so
a-
concerned
this
about
is a-
companies
That's a
tracking
longer
our data? They're
conversation.
doing it now.
privacy
that's
is literally in the prompt.
That's a longer conversation about like exactly how to do this, right?
Like, I'm not going off topic here.
No. I don't think you are. No, I'm not. I don't think you are.
I'm talking to Wick.
Okay, fair enough. And Lactoid, you said, and the kids section thing. The kids section thing doesn't actually solve anything, right? Like because then, like if you are a predator, you'll just say, "Oh yeah, I'm a kid too." And
No, but you don't. You hold on. Like you don't get access. Like, okay, yeah, I guess you would have to have some circumstance where you can verify that you're under 18 too. But like, I don't know. Maybe we'd figure out some system for that. Where like in high school or like any kind of like, if you're under 18, you can like go to the DOT and like get this website too, or something along those lines. I don't know. But like,
Good luck. You're going to
would
be putting your social security number into this shit.
It's the DOT. They have your social security number.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you're not good.
Bro,
like
the government's going to track me as they track you on your iPhone.
Like they're not.
Okay, that's a
going to
bad point,
create
though.
An anonymous generated thing at the DOT. Like that's just not, like you're living in a pipe
That's what I
dream
support.
because this already like the programs that are necessary that these bills supposedly advocate already exist for $14 a month. And what this is really going to do is this is going to put liability on social media companies, right? For what occurs on those platforms.
Good.
And then what that's going to happen.
They should be liable for what happens on their platform. It's their platform. They're making money off the people on it. Why aren't they responsible for what happens to the people who are on their
Look,
platform?
no one is
Most of
advocating
these
here. No one,
platforms-
just real
most of
quick,
these
no one is
platforms-
advocating that they
most
should
of
be
these
held
platforms-
completely like 100%
That's not
liable for
true.
every single
No,
thing,
no,
right?
again,
Like,
like,
look, there's
so-
obviously some levels that we give them, but when it comes down to it, they should be held more responsible than they are now because they are failing us.
Doobie's been waiting.
Think about the consequences of what you're saying. The moment that you say that companies can be sued because of anonymous communications between people, right? That are happening like millions of times an hour, right? And that you can sue them for the consequences.
We're not
of what
talking
occurred.
about just people talking. We're talking about people dying. kid
So,
dying. And yeah, if a kid
okay, hold
dies,
on, Scott, you'll have more time. I promise you have more time. And I also just want to say, for the record, I'm actually closer to Scott on this issue. And so like, he's a democratic socialist, and I'm backing his points.
I'm just saying real quick.
I just,
the
the
enough
consequence,
community grows.
the consequence of that is that social media companies are now going to have to be so profitable that they can deal with the insurance and or all of the additional like funds that are going to be required to settle out of court on lawsuits or to go to court.
Let's
And
go.
once you start doing that, what you do is you have this effect on free speech online where so many other companies are not going to be able to compete with these large corporations.
No, you
They
have
want
minors.
I want to hear. I want to hear from
talking
Doobie.
about
I want to hear
that.
from Doobie. I want to hear from Doobie. I want to hear from Doobie. We're waiting.
So Scott, do you think this bark thing is a good idea? That parents that have young children on social media should have this app?
I mean, I think like it's a better idea than not monitoring your kid at all. Ultimately, I think you should trust and respect your kids, and they should and have a good relationship with them. And if you can't, you should fucking grab their goddamn phone and learn what the fuck you're doing and make sure they don't have these apps on their phone.
Okay.
Like they're
But
kids.
given that it's pretty easy to like download an app and then delete it before your mom sees, right? Like I think it's fine to say that, hey, if you're a parent concerned about this, it's
Yeah, there will
probably a good
always be
idea,
workarounds.
yeah,
Government
for you to have this
secured or not.
app on your phone, right? So, and given the features of this app, I think you said were like a good idea, or like where would be useful to these parents. What's the issue with requiring those features to be put in place in these apps and giving parents a way to track their
I
children,
just
maybe
explained it
access to the
because
data?
because the financial burden prices people out of the market from being able to create free speech alternatives. It has a chilling effect on the ability once you can create an oligopoly of social media companies and other
this
people have to have
this
massive amounts of
wouldn't create
capital
the
in
burden. You're
order.
just
Wait,
making shit up at this
let him
point.
finish. Let him, please.
No, like if you have to have the ability to launch in order to launch now, right? Like you have to have a place, you have to have servers, you have to have like you have. It's already expensive to get into this market, but now you're adding the additional fact that like you might get sued for $15 million if you miss some fucking like drug dealer selling drugs to a kid and then that kid dies. And so once you add in those additional costs, only corporations with large
Okay,
amounts of
so let's
capital
say
will be able to
you don't go to
absorb
that
those
extreme.
costs.
Okay, let's say you don't go to that extreme, and the place you go is, hey, to have this app that children have access
It's like
to,
basic economics.
you need
It's
to
just regulatory
these
cash.
children need to be able to prove that they are that they're adults, and if they're not adults, then they get access to a separate part of the app that is meant for children, that is more monitored, that parents can have access to. Right? That doesn't seem like it's a huge fucking barrier to entry,
It's
right,
not.
for these app developers. But I mean, you keep
but
saying,
that's
hey,
a
well, the
separate
government
directly
is going to
related.
have access to that data, and they're going to abuse it somehow. What's the fear? Like, what's the government going to do with that data?
So you're saying you want me to specifically engage with the metadata point as opposed to the other points. So
Yeah,
the
like I'm just
metadata
like, what's
point,
the fear of them
right?
having that data?
Like the fears that you can have with the metadata is that first of all, there's automatically a chilling effect the moment you realize that you're no longer anonymous. The moment you realize that the state is immediately able to tie your ID, which I understand Lactoid is
You don't
engaging
think
in.
the
What if
state
we had a
knows who
bill?
you are? You don't think the state can watch this video and be like, yeah, that's that fucker down the street over there. Like, you don't think the state can figure this shit out?
I hate
Let's
that.
let him finish, and then we gotta
Right,
go FK and Wick.
there's a massive difference between the state having the resources to track you down and FISA courts that are all secret and other things that I have problems with also, right? There's a massive difference between that and then creating capture systems that create metadata that can be put into programs that can simultaneously track everybody even more easily, and people know that immediately that everything they post on social media is automatically tied and tracked by the government.
It's a
Now,
randomized key. It's not
Lactoid is
metadata
offering
if it's a
something else.
randomized key.
Okay, well,
Right.
hold on. But it
Lactoid is
doesn't matter.
offering that, but there's
Hold on,
no
I'm giving you
bill
it up. The
offering
government is going to know, right? I agree that the government's probably going to know, right? Like, wouldn't matter what the anonymized key is. They're probably going to have some way to figure out who's who. Okay, so you lay out, hey, they're going to have access to this stuff. There's a chilling effect. Is the chilling effect really the only thing holding it back? Like, what else is there?
Well, of course, it's the regulatory capture issues that I have a problem with, and the fact that social media are doing this. But the ID thing that Lactoid is putting forward, I don't think that's a bad idea. I just don't ever see that actually coming to fruition from any of these bills. And I don't like, and I would watch and track that every step of the way, because I highly doubt, even if they say that's what they're doing, that that's what they're doing. But if they legitimately introduce a bill where you went to you went to the DMV or whatever, right? And then it gave you a randomly generated key that wasn't tied to your ID at all or to your person at all, would there be workarounds? Yes, but there will be workarounds in any system. And would that be like better than our current situation? I would say that it probably is better than our current situation. I just don't ever see that bill, and it's not one of the bills being discussed today.
Hey, Scott, once I get elected, I'll introduce that bill. for you.
Let's go to FK. Let's go to FK.
The issue here is I don't like.
FK,
So I think
Wick,
I
and
knew
then
where
I'll.
you were going. Yeah. Wick, I think I know where you're going with this, so I'll just start it off. But the issue is I don't like this being portrayed as like, oh, something slips through the crack and a $14 million lawsuit hits Snapchat because they weren't able to catch something. What we're asking for is these companies should have systems in place where if they start seeing like younger users, their younger like base, doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing, those should be reported. Those should be dealt with. If users are out there selling a lot of drugs on their website or on their media app, you should be charged for that shit. Don't go do this shit in like in a very public space. And if you are a space that's just like not condoning it, but basically condoning it because you're not doing anything.
You should be able to buy and sell drugs.
All you're doing,
not the kids.
You should be able to do it in a legal system, right? But where we don't have it legalized and where it's really unregulated and where it's really dangerous, when we're just letting kids hop on these apps, use these apps, and go through the same process that the same adults on these apps can go through, it fucks these kids over. And I'm so sorry that like companies are going to have a higher barrier of entry, but maybe if you're a social media company, you do need this higher barrier of entry.
I'm just curious.
So when it comes,
I'll let you pick, FK, just any one that you want in the entire history of the United States. Can you give me a really good example of like government regulation working out well for the people?
Seatbelts.
Seatbelts? Like why couldn't companies have done it? Like why did we need
Stop
to
signs,
stop people?
Because
red
they
lights,
decided not
like
because
that.
no, there
Why-
is actually a reason. Companies didn't do it because it wasn't as profitable for them to do it. However, when the government got involved and regulated it, they started having to do it because then they were held liable for people dying if they were doing fucked up jobs on their cars, right?
So was it an increase of deaths that led to it, or was it a change in the culture and activist organizations that changed it? Because they just
it was
seems like they've done
regulation
this
that
the other
did
way.
it, Scott.
It was
Regulation
on these
solves a
companies.
fucking problem,
Activists-
Scott.
Wait,
It was
like what's
a bunch
happening
of
right now.
moms
Wait.
activism.
What's happening right now is what happened back then on a different media site, right? Instead of us going to the streets and picketing about how we want seatbelts, we're talking about how we want these regulations for these social media companies on fucking social media companies, and we're hoping that the government will eventually regulate these social media
A
companies.
car.
Right, I mean,
If
like,
you get in a car
it's
accident, and die,
interesting,
if
like,
you get in
you
a car
know what I mean?
accident
Like,
and
so,
die,
Well,
you,
it was a
if
change
the,
in
if
the
the car
culture.
dealership.
It was a change in the
Oh my
culture.
God,
That's why
no, what
Volvo.
you're just
That's why
you don't know what
Volvo-
you're
Okay.
talking
That's
about.
why Volvo.
So-
That's why Volvo
Whoa,
gave away
let him
the
go.
patent to the 3-point seatbelt for free.
Okay, let's go to.
I wish I
let's
could
go
just
to,
lie out my
government
fucking
didn't make them
asshole.
do
all the
that.
Let's
time
go
and
to Wick.
Yes,
and
please.
then I'll.
Okay, so when it comes down to it, like, look, if you die in a car accident, but the car manufacturer did everything by the books and obeyed the regulatory standards, you don't get to sue the car manufacturer. That's not how it works. Just like in this case, if Snapchat or these social media sites had a mechanism in place, right, where they could, where
happens all
parents
the time.
specifically, shut up, where parents could specifically track these things, even if things did fall through the cracks, even if sometimes they worked around it and got out anyway. Again, this idea that there's going to be this litigation that's going to destroy companies is just a myth. It frankly is.
James
Like
River
when we
Private
talk, when we
Insurance
look at
Holding
these
Company
regulations,
had
like,
to
look,
institute-
we're not talking about 18 and up, right? Like 18 and up is an entirely different ball game. But when it comes to children, when it comes to parents and children, parents not only have the responsibility, but they have the right to look into what their kids are doing. Now, obviously, we're not talking about helicopter parents, and they need to be wise in this thing. But I guarantee you, parents these days just do not know how to work these things. And if social media companies, if they provided these tools, right, it would not be a huge barrier to the entry. You are catastrophizing this and extrapolating out into detail where I just do not think you know what you're talking about, quite frankly.
Let's ask the lawyer on the panel, right? Let's ask the lawyer. When the government says, like creates a law and then the companies follow that law to the best of their ability and things slip through the cracks, is it real common for judges everywhere to just be like, oh, nope, they're doing great. Like this doesn't have any standing. Like you can't take any case. Or is it more common that these companies have to like settle out of court often to avoid going to court, and frivolous lawsuits happen all the time, and they have to budget a fairly decent amount of money to deal with those lawsuits despite the fact that they're doing the best that they can?
So I would say the second is close. What really happens is, yeah, I mean, you gotta get like, as long as the damages are high enough, you get a bullshit lawsuit. You can I'll be honest, you can find a lawyer who will file really any kind of lawsuit.
Right.
And yeah, technically you're not supposed to, but people do it all the time. You basically just have to find like some conceivable reason, and it's
Snapchat ambulance chasers.
lawyers and get creative, and their insurance company is going to be the one that's probably going to be settling out most of these claims. Now, does this translate into higher prices? Because, well, now they got to pay a higher premium because their insurance company has to keep paying out claims. Yeah, this is a real risk. And this is why, like, I am concerned about, like, these things settle. And you do often have times where, like, I can think of a couple cases right now where I don't think any reasonable person here on this panel would think that, like, the company did anything wrong or, like, didn't obey the law. But if you get a sympathetic enough plaintiff, you're looking at some real money.
And the thing is with social media companies,
but what he just said doesn't, like, he just said it right at the beginning. Anyone can file any bullshit claim for any reason whatsoever. It doesn't matter whether we change these things, whether we keep these things the same. It doesn't matter. That cost isn't like, look, it's just overblown. It really is.
The moment that you add liability and you remove the lower courts.
No, there's liability right now. It's happening right now.
You remove.
Oh my God, you're not even paying attention to reality right now.
Oh my God.
Here's what you do. Wick, to give you something. Here's what you could say. Wick, you could say, yes, we should put liability, but we should have tort reform in this particular category where we have set limits on the damages. So you can't have crazy verdicts. You are legislatively restricted to certain caps on damages.
I got no problem with that. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go to Al.
Let's go to
Al and then Ty.
Layers of government to fix a problem that doesn't exist.
Al and Ty.
I'm just giving you shit, Scott.
Okay. So, I'm pretty much, technologically closer to a boomer than a millennial. And that's a bit sad. But I think that doesn't mean that I'm totally...
We can tell from your camera,
disqualified from talking about... I know. So I think we can talk about... But I don't think that fully disqualifies me from being able to talk about this issue. And talk about it, I will. Because I think that all of us on this panel are 19 and up, I think, of age, at least 19 years old, everyone on this panel, right? Which means that we've all had parents.
What does that have anything to do with what's going on?
So we've all had parents. No, so I'm saying that we all had parents, or at least one parent, competent enough to keep us from having a drug overdose and dying somewhere.
No,
so I think
my parents were incompetent with technology. My parents were absolutely incompetent with technology.
No, don't say you're dead. It's called making smart decisions. No, stop.
My parents were absolutely incompetent with technology. When I was a little kid, I could have gotten molested.
I'm speaking the ghost. Okay, I'm speaking the ghost apparently because
you're speaking the ghost
here.
Because we're white.
So wait, you're telling
my parents can look at
a kid to not take drugs.
Because our parents allowed you to have an overdose of drugs and die.
So the argument is because we survived.
They can decide to not take drugs.
You're an idiot. This is the This is the dumbest thing you could have said. My parents were
you know what I'm saying?
immigrants
We
from
all had
another
parents
country. They
that
were
confident
technologically, they
enough.
were illiterate. They did
I
not
said
know what the fuck. I
didn't
could have
say
gone
they were.
online.
I didn't say
I
they
could
were
have gone
technologically
online and
illiterate.
gotten
I didn't say
molested
they were
50
technologically
times,
illiterate.
and they would have never found out if I never told them. They don't have any clue with what the internet was, how it works, what I did on it, whatever. They don't even know what I'm doing on it nowadays, right? Like, I don't know what this
You know,
idea is that, like,
there's
oh,
multiple ways
every
to be a
parent
better
should be
parent
competent
than
enough. You're right.
technological
They're
literacy,
competent
right?
enough. They're competent enough if they see you doing something actively, right? But if you're sitting on your phone and you're texting somebody, if you're sitting on your phone and you're messaging with somebody, you're doing whatever you're doing. If you go to your room and you're calling with people on Discord, whatever you're doing online, they don't have access to you unless you think that the job of a parent is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to keep their eyes directly locked on you.
You are getting involved in
think
Twitch
that
debate
that's
battles, so
a good
clearly your
point
parents
where
failed
you're
you,
go-
right? Proof is
The
in
only
the pudding
question
right
here
there.
seems to be how do we limit this to children? That seems to be the only disagreement between everybody, because like I think everybody here, yes, this shouldn't apply to adults, and then the only disagreement is like they are concerned it will apply to adults. So like is there like some kind of thing we can think about here? The craft.
That's kind of a tech issue, right? Like that is a concern, right? Like I wouldn't want my parents today to be looking at what and trust me, my parents probably don't want to see what I'm doing on social media, right? Like if they tune into this show right now, they'd be appalled. I'm speaking to leftists. What?
We know that's
Weird,
not what you're talking about.
right?
Originally.
Like
My
but
parents would be ashamed that I was talking to right wingers.
true. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like that's a concern, right? Like
My
I want to be
parents are
very clear.
ashamed I'm an
I want
empath.
to be very clear that there
We
are
all know that.
issues that we need to look at when it comes to this. That it's not all roses. It's not a simple thing, but conceptually, it is very important to give parents more tools, not less, when it comes to parenting. We need to give them more resources, not less. We need to hold
What tool
companies
would you
more
give them?
responsible, not less.
What tool would you give them that has been that is put forward in any of the bills?
After this, we got to go to a tie. He's been waiting patiently.
Okay, sure. But again, some kind of backdoor, some kind of way, a notification program that you can track all their social media on. Those type of things. Those are great ideas.
Yeah, they already exist. Like, what tool would you do that
Okay,
doesn't
but
exist?
what we would do, what laws like this would do,
Okay.
would say if that the social media company that lets children download their stuff, if they do not provide it to the parents in a reasonable manner, then they can be held liable. And I think
So,
that
so
is a good change.
you're not advocating any tool. You said we should give parents tools.
Yo, I'm
but
not
you're
I'm not a
advocating any
programmer,
tool
dude. I don't
that
know the
doesn't already
exact
exist.
tool, right? But like
Right,
if
but you've yet to
what I
advocate
am
one.
advocating for, I did specifically. I did
But that
a
already
program.
exists.
Maybe if you listen, you can understand a program that the companies have to, are obligated to make available to parents.
That's not a new tool. That's a financial and
What-
legal obligation.
Well,
That's not a
let me
tool.
ask you this. Let me ask you this. What social media company right now is legally obligated to do this when it comes to children?
Do what specifically?
To
Because there are legal obligations.
provide parents with access in some way, shape, or form to their child
None as of yet.
activities. And that's what I'd like to change. You asked me what I'm advocating for. That's what
Right.
I'm advocating
Well,
for. I
I
want to
said what
change that.
tool, and you didn't bring any tools.
What are you talking about? You're obviously not listening to me. I said a specific tool, a program, some sort of access to an app, a meta app, perhaps that
already
allows them
exists.
to track.
That's not a new tool. That already
You aren't
exists.
asking for me to advocate for a new tool. I'm
But
advocating
you
the
said
change
we need to
I'm
get, we
advocating
need to
is
give
for
parents these tools.
social
So-
media companies to be legally obligated to provide access to these tools
Right.
to the parents.
So so what you're advocating is not any tools that don't already exist and aren't affordable, but instead to shift legal and financial obligation onto these companies,
Yes.
which is the whole problem that I have.
Well, you may have a problem with it, but again, when done in a reasonable manner with limits and the scope of these things,
Say
I
the
think
word
it's a
reasonable
net
doesn't
good.
magically
It will
make it
it will
good.
reduce harm, and
Wait,
it will
do companies
also
not have-
increase parents' ability, the parents' freedom to govern their children.
Let's go to
Wait,
let's go.
but
let's
the
go
other
to
issue,
our friend.
the issue here is even bigger, because you're
Sorry,
acting like
let's go
companies
to our
have
tie.
no responsibility to
Let's go
anybody.
let's go to our friend Ty, who's been waiting
Hey.
quite patiently.
I appreciate it. Just two quick things. Number one is that when Fabian said he was going to channel his inner fanatic today, I didn't believe him. So, like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I've got a problem on both
all the
sides of this.
smoke. Sorry.
Yeah. I got a problem on both sides of this issue. I actually kind of get where Fabian's going in the regards that, like, hey, you know, parents do have to be front and center on this one. But the problem is, like, there's so many outs with social media in the regards that even if you mandate a backdoor, even if you try, you know, tell parents, hey, do better, is that literally if I have a cell phone, I can make an account on anything with an email address, and you can sign up for an email address in under 5 minutes. So the problem that I keep having is that the rampant ambiguity in which people have access to the internet, particularly even children, is almost nigh impossible to deal with. And, you know, great, you can say, all right, let's put limitations on the corporation to make sure that they don't have kids on it. But I want to know, how do you do that? Are you going to verify where it's like, hey, you have to take a photo of yourself and verify who you are? Because like that gets a little sketchy. But also on the top of it is that even if you just do the whole, I'm going to do an age check or whatever else, like it's so easy to lie. I think I've got an account still that's like, you know, predated 10 years because I've had it so long. The problem is I just don't see where the rubber hits the road on anyone's side, honestly. So feel free to defend that.
See, I'm like, and just a quick question, like, do you think, right, that the government is going to institute a program that is better than what is already occurring? That the government's going to fix
I think
this
the government
with the regulation?
I think the government is
just
supposed
curious.
to represent the interests of the people. When these companies are out here and they have no liability to anybody else except for whatever profit they're going to make, and the government can't step in and be like, listen, our society is dealing with dealing with the ramifications of you being unchecked, just kind of let out to do whatever you want to do. It's I can't say the word on Twitch. It's dumb as shit, right? It's stupid.
Mhm.
We need to have the government step in, whether it be implement some type of rule where it's like, listen, you have to be tracking what's going on, especially if it's amongst, like I said, your younger users. If you start seeing red flags pop up, whether it's through like a metadata AI system where they can track red flags and they say like, if this pops up on like younger users' pages, then we could track them. Personally, I think it should also be for older users. As long as I trust the government, I think they should have the ability to see what we're doing. If we're
So-
being problematic in the country, if they have enough reason to suspect us, then they could probably go a little deeper.
So
Get a
FK,
warrant then.
so FK, you believe that the government regulation, right, will be better than the current program and will fix the problem of inactive parents?
Well, the current program is kind of just let things happen.
Well, no, like the problem is that you like you're
What's the
giving
current
tools to
program? What do
parents.
you think the current program is?
The current program is that you have to be an active parent and you have to install third-party apps yourself and make that decision.
But you can't be an infinitely active parent, and the internet continues to infinitely expand,
but
infinitely
is the government
find
going to fix
workarounds
that?
for every problem. The government says, as a company, that there are problems with you operating as you are without any restrictions. These are some restrictions we're going to put into place if you want to be in this field. These restrictions aren't for the fact that we want it to be harder for you to operate. These are just these are just to mitigate any problems that this company might cause to the rest of society. What is the problem with saying that as a company you have some obligation to the society around you, especially if you're profiting off them?
So what you're saying is the government isn't going to solve the problem by instituting an app that isn't already available, and it's not going to solve the problem by somehow making parents more
Not
engaged.
100%, but it's going to mitigate it.
Well, instead, the way that the government is going to solve the problem is by making these companies financially liable and able to be sued if they don't do some standard of that the
Well,
state.
to be fair,
puts
when you
forward.
pass a lot of these new regulations, you're going to end up with a lot of frivolous lawsuits, right? The goal is you get past those frivolous lawsuits, things get codified, you decide like, okay, these things were really dumb lawsuits that failed. These things went through. The lawsuits that go through end up changing the way that we function in our society, right? The ones that fail, we look at them and we're like, yeah, those were dumb. Those won't be going through again. And it starts setting precedent for future cases, right? There's a lawyer here. Am I wrong or right on that?
No, I mean,
The concern is that it seems like for stuff to actually change, the bar is so high because insurance companies are the ones that are paying this out, and people have such like a universal negative opinion about insurance companies that people don't really care if they got to pay out a bunch of money. Now the logical conclusion is, well, if they have to pay out more money, then they're going to charge higher premiums. But a lot of people just can't seem to make the connection, and they're just sort of like, fuck insurance companies, take all their money. I think Scott's got a reasonable concern here when we're talking about putting a bunch of liability in these companies, because at the end of the day, it is going to make the economic landscape for them a lot more difficult.
Can I ask you a question, Lacroix?
In ways that maybe we don't necessarily intend.
Before you answer that question, it's even worse than that, though. Right? Like, so this thing about like being liable for user generated content, there is, I believe, there's a bill either that's being considered or has already been made into law. I forget what it is. Right? Pushing that. That would destroy social media platforms, at least the way they operate now.
Kids Online Safety Act.
And that the kids, yeah, that sounds familiar.
That's the one.
Okay, so when you have to keep track of everything, right? Well, what they'll do is like, okay, well, we just won't have that user input. For a lot of these sites, people like news sites are closing comment sections because they don't have the manpower to like moderate every single comment that's put on their site and make sure that like no grooming or whatever the fuck is happening there, right? Like they'll just shut it down. I've seen forum after forum.
They won't.
Yeah, they just absolutely
That's not what will happen. What will happen is Facebook and like Twitter and like YouTube, owned by Alphabet, will be able to afford that. And then we will no longer have any other social media, and they will control the landscape of acceptable.
It's exactly what I'm saying. Exactly what I'm saying. So the smaller ones are the ones that get shut down, and the larger ones who can actually afford to do this, right? Now, even the larger ones, right? Like you can imagine
they want this. They want this because they can increase prices and own the landscape.
No, but
you can imagine like a censorship
like
regime.
TikTok.
Even in the comment section, like the YouTube comment section is like, well, legendarily just a toxic place. But would it be better if that YouTube comment section was necessarily censored and then they were just putting in they're putting in random filters and like we've seen that in terms of like YouTube Kids, right? When YouTube started cracking down on the YouTube Kids section, where like people just ended their comment section completely because they couldn't keep track of what was happening on their page. YouTube put it on them, the creator, to keep track of on their page. Like, we're just not going to have one because I might be grooming and I can't keep track of this shit. But yeah, go ahead.
Look, so I want to address that before I ask Lactoy's question, right? Like this idea, right, that the companies will offload this to the individual users, absolutely, unless the government holds them responsible somehow, right? Unless there's some sort of regulatory kind of thing. Now, look, you are way overblowing the cost of these things if done correctly. Obviously, if it's done poorly, it's going to be shit. But that's with everything, right? If it's done poorly, it's going to be shit. But when it comes to children, and when
the
it comes
cost of starting these
children
companies
online,
is large.
well, we're not. Yeah, just starting them up in general is a large ask. But when we look about adding functionality like this, I am not convinced that it's going to be such a premium that it's going to be hard. It's just like requiring car manufacturers to put seat belts. Does it add to the cost? Sure, but not in any kind of real like it ain't breaking the bank. Let's say that. Now, I do want to ask Lactoid a question though. Let's see if I can phrase this correctly. So you mentioned like you think Scott has a valid concern when it comes to the liability and things like that, and companies being held responsible financially for the bad actors the bad actions that occur on their platform. Do you not think that at least conceptually there should be some level of responsibility that these companies are held to at all?
Yeah, no, I get that, and that's where it's like it's very difficult because somebody's
sorry.
on something.
Is someone? Okay. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like currently right now, if you got a website and like users there are posting like pornographic images of children, right? They have to remove that, and if they refuse to remove it or they just don't remove it, and it's like their site becomes like a trading post for this stuff, like they will be gone after. Like the government will come after them, right? When you expand this to start including like all sorts, like obviously the more you expand this, like they have a financial burden to enforce that as it is. The more you expand this, there's more liability and more of a financial burden the further and further you expand this. And the concern here is, well, if you expand it to the extent that we want to, or you expand it to the point that, you know, perhaps the authors of this bill want to expand it to, you're going to create such a crushing liability landscape for these companies where, you know, they're going to have to either disable entire functions, or they're going to have to hire entire squadrons of people to like constantly rummage through this stuff to make sure they're in constant compliance, and they got to pay for that, or they can just ignore it and then they're going to get sued. These are all valid concerns, and this is
So-
why, like,
Sure, I can't speak to the intent, right? I can't speak to the intent of the bill authors, right? I don't know them, right? But when it comes to requiring a social media company such as Twitter to allow parents to have some sort of app that tracks what their kids post and to provide that up front, right? I don't see that as adding the level of cost and the level of infrastructure, the level of overhead that you're painting here, because it wouldn't, like, look, it wouldn't require the company to go through this, right? The company wouldn't have to check for these, right? The company wouldn't have to do it. All they'd have to do is provide the parents the ability to do it, which is much less costly.
That's a separate point, though, right? So what I was responding to is solely the idea of putting the liability on the companies. Okay,
Sure.
If we're talking about just
we can't like isolate these variables.
but we can isolate the policies, right? Because if we're talking, okay, let's say, because this bill could be, we're not going to like hold these companies like financially responsible, but we are going to implement a regulation that they have to implement where they have to allow parents to have access to this data. And what Scott's saying is, well, there's already a service for that. That's his response to that.
Yeah, but that doesn't like matter, right? At the end of the day,
Why?
it's like some cars.
Why do we need a
work
law for something that already exists?
But
because
it exists with a private company. So if there is a need there that a private company is filling, this need that they're filling right now is something that the vast majority of our country has. Right. So why not allow the government, which is a vehicle through which we enact exactly these kind of policies to fill needs that we need as a society? Like why is there an issue
Right.
with
We
having
should
them-
make Starbucks illegal so that like the government can run Starbucks.
Wait, Doobie,
What?
we also need,
What?
like, we all have antivirus software. We all need antivirus software, but the government doesn't like provide us antivirus software. We buy that
Well,
from
they
private
probably
companies,
should.
and it works.
Hold on.
And it works out so far. Like, why not just
I think
simply?
this is way more pressing than
matter
like
of national
antivirus
security.
software. We're talking
No,
about children having access to, like I said earlier, basically portals to pedophiles and rapists and murderers and drug dealers on their phone. Like this isn't. If there's a
isn't-
pressing need here that you don't get with fucking
Okay.
antivirus software.
Wait, Doobie,
Sammy's
real quick, there.
law isn't doing anything that you
We're
can't
not
do for
talking
$14
specifically
a month.
about Sammy's law right now.
So if we're talking about Kids Online Safety Act and you're talking about liability, I think I've already proven time and time again why that would be a danger. If you're talking about chats, that bill allows law enforcement backdoor access to fucking everything.
What's wrong with that?
So that they can track all of online activity and see
Okay.
like what apps are using more drug dealing and like
That
real
sounds fine to me.
Yeah,
but if
I
you're
know.
doing a deal that you
I
should
want it
held
tracked.
accountable. Caught.
No, the real thing here, right, is you have to ask yourself, why are these laws coming to fruition and why do they keep chanting think of the kids? It is such a
Because
golden
the kids are
rule
the ones
of
being
the
affected
government.
by that.
Do
No,
you
it is
think
such
we
a
don't have
one-
food
Scott,
safety
Scott,
regulations?
It
the
is such
kids are
a
the ones
it is such a-
stumbling
it is
into
such a- it
the
is
kids are
such
the ones
a
stumbling
it is
to
such a-
hypno
it
trans
is such a
servers
it is
where
such
they're
a it
where they're
is such
convinced
a
that they're
it is
transgender,
such a
right? And
it
they're
is
told
such
that
a
they're
it is
xenogendered.
such a it is such a golden rule
Thank you
that
for that.
when people start screaming think of the kids and then they start putting out fucking legislation and
You're
the
just screaming,
whole
think of the
argument,
companies.
I'm not screaming. That's so stupid.
That's what you said.
And they start
Yo, you
saying,
just said that regulations are going to make
It- it
governments
is such a-
control Starbucks.
it
That's
is- oh
fucking
my God.
dumb.
It is.
That's
Oh my
dumb.
God. You guys
Just because there's
literally
food
can't deal with
regulation,
my point.
just because
No,
there's a food and drug
Scott,
administration.
I'm with you here, right? Like,
When they start screaming, think of the kids, and they start offering solutions that already exist for relatively cheap. And what they want to do is they want to say that the government can step in the role of parents and that's somehow going to fix it, which it isn't. And then what you haven't asked yourself are what are the consequences and what are the real goals here? And the real goal here is to introduce liability and legislation to make things like distributed networks more difficult and illegal. The real goal here is to make sure that the internet is able to be censored by the state and corporations that play the fucking game with them.
The internet is basically controlled by the state.
That's
Yeah, I don't want to make it
conspiratorial
worse.
thinking. That's conspiratorial thinking. Look,
It's
we
not
have
fucking conspiratorial.
regulations.
It's common
Regulations
fucking
are a
sense.
good
You're
thing.
basically saying if
Regulations like the
regulators
Food and
think
Drug
about-
Admin, just real quick, the
That's
Food
what
and
you're
Drug Administration existing, right, doesn't mean that the government somehow controls Starbucks, even though Starbucks has to meet certain standards. It has to provide a certain level of service. It cannot, just be this Wild West Ancapistan, right? This is all we're
Right.
asking for here.
Right.
This
We need
is
the
all we're
FDA to
asking
commit.
for here
We need
is
the
some
FDA
level
to make
of
it.
standards
We need.
when
You're
it
right.
comes
We need.
to
Go ahead.
these social
Let's-
media
let's go
companies and
to
children.
Lactoid, but
You're
like
right. We
I
need- I'll be
I-
super quick. You're right. We need the FDA to commit genocide on the gay population in the 90s. We need an FDA to make it illegal to buy European baby formula that's better.
So,
we need the FDA to make labeling procedures so we can't buy EpiPens and insulin from
Let-
other countries where it's
I'm
cheaper.
sorry,
We need the
companies are
FDA to
going to have to pay a
hundreds
cost
and
to
millions
save
of
the
dollars
children. Won't someone
bailouts
think
from-
of the company?
Sure, sure, sure.
Won't
No,
someone
this
think
wasn't
force
quick.
them?
This wasn't
So
quick.
those-
But let's go to Lactoid. Do you have something to say afterwards?
genocidal organization.
But like I'm with Fabian Liberty. I think like the moment people are start saying just think of the children, something terrible is going to happen. Look at the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. It's exactly that. People think of the children. There's groomers and all that, right? And then we had that kind of disaster. And I think this is something similar. But
Are you for
Lactoid
child
and
labor
then
laws?
Lactoid and Doobie.
I've noticed like some of the people on the panel want to like have their cake and eat it too. They've been accusing Scott of conspiratorial thinking whenever he brings up like government overreach. But then like when he's talking about government overreach, they're saying, well, the government's looking at all this anyway, right? They're watching everything we're doing anyway. So I guess the question is like, are we being conspiratorial and paranoid about the government watching us all the time? Or are they actually watching us all the time and like all of our paranoias and conspiratorial?
His claim is that his claim is that
Hold
this
on,
is a
real quick.
if I could
So there is an absolutely valid claim here of like government overreach. This is why like I want there to be a solution that doesn't involve constant government like searching searching our data or having like potential backdoors where people can search our data, and just have the companies like require age gates that minimize data searching, and then we can avoid the problem overall. I think everything thus far has just been abandoned.
Let's go to Doobie.
Why are you guys we give the government the power to kill us.
Doobie.
That doesn't mean
And
we
then
want them to do it
Wick,
more.
And then FK. All right.
Right.
Okay, so to be super clear, my position is that the government's doing this and it's a good thing. I want the government to do this. I want them to track where we are. I want them to track drug dealers and pedophiles on these platforms. I think it's totally fine. Right. I think you should be concerned when people start saying, think of the drug dealers, think of the corporations, think of everything but the fucking children that are being victimized on these apps. Right. I think that's the fucking red flag here. It's very strange, I think, that what we're talking about really is something that we should recognize as people who are like online internet people, that hey, the laws in place right now, the laws of yesteryear aren't really keeping up with the technology that's available. Right, we need to adjust. Right, and it seems like this is there's a private company out there apparently called Bark that has adjusted, that has found a need that parents have with this developing technology. They've filled that need, and all I'm saying is, hey, that seems like a good idea. They've recognized the need. I want the government to do this instead because I think everybody has this need, and I think it's totally fine for the government to come in, given that they already have our data, and I'm totally okay with it. I'm totally okay with them monitoring my location and whether or not I'm selling child porn or drugs on the internet. I think it's totally fine, and I hope you guys think it's totally fine too. But it seems like what Scott is saying is, hey, fuck, I might want to sell drugs. I might want to trade child porn, and I don't want the government tracking me when I do this. Like, what's the I don't understand, unless you're into that kind of shit. I don't think you are. Like, what's the fucking concern? Yeah, they're going to watch you watch porn. Okay, who gives a fuck?
The concern is that they're going to like use this for political purposes in the way that more authoritarian governments do.
I just don't think that
They already do that. It's not even just the government. We have given so much power to these corporations that go unregulated. When it comes to tracking your data, when it comes to like just fishing basically for any information they want to get on you, these corporations completely unchecked. And in my opinion, right, a government is supposed to represent us as a people. And when these corporations are doing things that are negative to us as a people, the government steps in and goes, hey, we need these problems fixed, right? It doesn't even need to be like a government program that whatever it was called, the app, right? That deals
Bark.
with fucking
Or you
tracking
could
like what your
use
kids are doing.
Canopy.
Bark.
Same difference.
So with Bark, Canopy, if those things are working well, then the government can also get involved, give them government contracts, and tell companies, listen, these companies are government contracted companies. If you want to be in this field, this is a level that needs to be met at a bare minimum for you
let's
to
say
do
the
it.
Wick,
You
and
want
then
if you want to make the
Wick-
if
Wick
you want to
and
make
Scott.
those companies worse,
Wick-
the best thing you can do is give them a government
We'll go
contract.
to Wick and Scott, but like, yeah, I think there's a lot of straw manning of Scott's arguments, which is incredible, right? That we've gotten to this point.
So.
But let's go to Wick.
So to address Lactoi's point, because Lactoi's at least being reasonable here, I think that the reason I can say that yes, this is happening, and no, it's not a problem, because damage done, right? Like damage done. If you're concerned about the government being able to track your data, if you're concerned about the corporations being able to have a backdoor and find out, that's already happening, right? That we are already doing that. That is happening right now. This isn't going to increase this problem. This isn't a vast government conspiracy to take away all your rights. And oh my God, they're going to get you, gang. They're busting in your door right now. No, of course not. What this is a way, it's a tool for parents, right, to protect children. Obviously, if it's done shitty, it's going to be shitty. But when we talk about these things, all I'm advocating for is there to be some rules of the road when it comes to these things. The social media companies, if they're going to allow children on there, and yeah, it's not going to be perfect, as Tiberius said, there are workarounds, right? But I think this would honestly mitigate a lot of the damage here. And even if it only mitigates like it by 10 to 20%, that's a win in my book. There is absolutely very few downsides to allowing parents to track their child's activities on the internet. And I think making that a seatbelt law kind of thing deal, I have no problem with that, right? I have no problem.
Okay, well, it seems at this point what the argument just simply is we have this service provided by a private company, and some people in the panel want to make it a public function. That's just the question, right? If as long as the bill is
disagree with all the presented bills, for the record.
Right, and if what I'm concerned about, and it's hard because
Sammy's bill isn't even written. How can you oppose it?
None of these bills are written, which is difficult. But like, let's say
Kids Online Safety Act is.
Well, let's say some of the stuff in this bill that's asked for is stuff like law enforcement monitoring or law enforcement stuff, backdoors and stuff. Mm-hmm. I do think that's a Fourth Amendment concern. I am concerned about that. I'm not like Doobie. I read 1984 and I was concerned. I wasn't happy at the idea of everybody spying on me. I don't want the government to put cameras in my house because, hey, they're watching me anyway. I don't give a fuck. Hey, no, I don't want that. So any kind of way we can, but at the same time, we have a very strong competing interest of children are getting molested and dying, and we can't have that. So we have to think of a policy where we minimize government overreach and surveillance and also protect children.
So let's go.
I'm not sure this does this. I'm not sure this does that though as well as alternatives do.
So Scott, you can have a quick reply. Then I don't think I want to jump in. Then Ty and FK, but we're running out of time, guys. So
we just talk about we need a policy, right? We need a policy to protect the children. It's not the fact that the government isn't regulating these things enough or that these companies don't have enough regulatory capture. The problem is that parents aren't actively involved in doing and understanding what their kids are doing online. And none of these bills, so far as we can tell, right, have done anything to address this.
I agree they haven't done anything to address it. When I interned at the public defender, the most common factor I consistently saw among people convicted of crimes or victims of crimes were people who didn't have parents that were in their life, right? These are the people that are most vulnerable. And I think these are the people we should be concerned about, which this bill, to be honest with you, I agree, doesn't really address those people.
Factoid, you weren't always a corporate shill. This is surprising to me. Yeah. Let's go to Heil, Ty, and FK.
Yeah, because this is something that Fabian and I are in agreement with. We need to look at the parents. Parents need to have, a better understanding on parenting and how to better help their children in this. Because, I think I was shot down last time I spoke about this. But, we all had parents that were I'm not apparently not all very competent 100%, but competent enough to keep us from killing ourselves from like stupid accidents or actual like drug dealings gone wrong and whatnot. Obviously, they stopped us from doing that. So I think we can say that parents have an obligation to at least know that their kids are like not going out in the middle of the night, getting up into trouble, and joining gangs, getting drugs and like overdosing on heroin. I think that's something we can do on even and people are saying, oh, people don't know about technology. Listen, you don't have to be the most technologically literate person. You don't need to be Elon Musk, okay? Making memes on 4chan and Reddit every single day. You don't need to do that. You need to
Says the
have
person that
steady
said the pages
values.
on Snapchat.
Yep. That's what I just said, Spartacus. You don't need that.
Yeah, I know, but you had
What
no
you need to do
idea.
is
But
need
you
to
had no.
you
But
need
you
to-
had
you need
no
to
idea.
listen.
You already failed when you said this
Okay,
before.
Spartacus,
You had no.
Spartacus,
You already had.
Spartacus,
You already had no.
Spartacus,
You already
but
had no
actually,
idea what was
Spartacus,
going on
but
Snapchat.
actually, but
You already
actually,
have no idea.
Spartacus,
You
but
already have
actually,
no. You wait.
Spartacus,
Stop.
but actually,
Stop. You already
Spartacus,
have no
but
idea.
actually,
Okay,
Spartacus,
stop.
but
Whoa,
actually,
whoa, whoa, we're not
Spartacus,
gonna. Whoa,
but actually,
whoa,
Spartacus, but actually, Spartacus.
I mean, I haven't talked in a long time.
Yeah.
Actually, Spartacus, like I was saying.
Let Al finish the point.
Actually,
But I do want to hear what you
Okay.
got to say, Sprout.
So, but actually, Spartacus, like I was literally saying before you rudely interrupted me, is like you don't need to be the most technologically literate. You need to have, care and investment into your child's life. You need to be able to take them aside and like speak to them, and say, hey, how's your day going? Like, let's talk about how you've been doing in school lately. Let's talk about drugs and how drugs are bad, and you shouldn't be doing drugs, and there are people on the internet that might be trying to like talk to you and convince you to do things that
Yeah, sure,
that in your
come on,
heart
yeah.
you shouldn't do because we have morals. And so so you can engage your children in that way and actually prepare them for the outside world, even without necessarily having every single quarter knowledge of technological sufficiency. You can actually talk to your children and actually give them lessons in morals and values that will keep them from actually dying in a public bathroom at 3 o'clock in the night at the public park, okay, from a heroin overdose. You can actually do things like and so I think that's something that we can do. And that's not addressed in the bills. And that's what I think that we can have other ways of solving this problem. That's not this technocratic
you can respond to
backdoors.
him.
All right. So now what I'm saying is you didn't know what the hell Snapchat was. You didn't know how Snapchat worked. You talked about kids being on random pages in Snapchat. Snapchat doesn't have pages. They have friends with text conversations and pictures. They have stories if you want to watch someone's stories, but there's no pages. You didn't know what the fuck the app was. You had no idea what the fuck was going on. But you're gonna sit here and say you don't need to be technologically literate to be the parent that I'm telling you to be. And if you're not that parent, then fuck you. You know what? You're the reason your kid died, right? And then your great solution for all this, your great solution is for parents to teach Dare to their kids. Because I mean, I think we can all figure out how good Dare did.
What's wrong
for
with Dare?
kids in
What's-
school.
I won a medal
What's
in
wrong with
Dare.
Dare?
I have it hanging.
Of course
Dare
you
did not work.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. I did Dare. I did the
Wait,
Dare. And
even Dare changed their
And you
program.
still fuck. I
So
won
I
a
went through
medal.
No, here's what's the annoying part. I hate that.
Okay,
Like,
man,
I
we
understand.
didn't die for
As a
the job, it's
parent,
the
you
job.
have certain responsibilities. You have certain duties to fulfill as a parent. But at the end of the day, a parent isn't just that. A kid doesn't just get raised by their parent, right? They get raised by the whole community around them. They get raised by what society is doing around them. They get raised by like the companies that are around them, especially nowadays. They get raised by what these companies are showing them, what they're providing them with. We can't just say, as a parent, it's your duty to deal with everything that your kid is up to. We have to realize we've gotten to a point where it's really hard, right? It used to be the case that the people that your kid talked to were you and the people within your community, the people that were very close to you, the people that you knew, your neighbor you talked to, that's it. Now it's the case that your kids are talking to some fucking random guy. They could be talking to Doobie, right? The most like predator person on the
They
internet.
probably are talking.
They could
to
be
fair.
talking to this man anywhere. They could be
talk
in
to
a
many
random
social
part of
media.
Europe talking to him. We can't just expect that parents should be like omnipotent beings that know everything that's going on. We should have an understanding that to an extent, parents do have control over their kids. We hold them responsible. But we should also say that the places that these kids are at, like, for example, when your kids are at school, your school is responsible for your kids. When your kids are online doing that dumb shit, at least that media company should have some responsibility to your society and to those kids to keep them safe.
Okay, let's go to Ty, but I agree, Doobie is never present danger. We all guard ourselves from that. Ty, please.
Yeah,
Agree.
but
You should
what-
take your kids out
Shut
of public
up!
schools.
Let me talk for a second. All right, look. Whenever I was gonna take the sides in this particular argument at the beginning, is that I was largely gonna be more on the side like, look, this is gonna be a parent's first thing, and the state's really not gonna have a lot of hands on this. The problem is I had such an immediate revolting reaction to the people who spoke before me that, like, it's taken me literally 2 hours for Lactoid to, like, restore my sanity so I can fucking make an argument here. So here's the things that I actually really wanted to make in this conversation. Number one, while parents kind of are technologically illiterate, particularly when it comes to social media, there is a generational gap that's because of this. This is largely Gen X parents that were raising the kids that we were seeing growing up now, which are Gen Z. Now that the millennials are now the parental generation, I'm hoping, and there should be every indication that this is going to get better, because millennials do understand the hardcore implications of what society, or what social media can do to their kids. Now, unfortunately, the vast majority
kids are more online.
That more online versus less online isn't the thing that concerns me. It's how well the parents manage this, and the problem is that the data is going to be a little flimsy, because the average
the data
age
that
between
they have on this
shut
as of
up!
right
I'm
now-
not done.
The data that they
Hey,
have
Hey,
right
hey,
now
whoa,
is that
whoa,
kids
whoa,
online and
Hey,
specifically
hey. Our friend Ty has been waiting very patiently, like the most patiently of everyone. Let's let Ty finish the point.
The problem is with the data is that the average age difference between a millennial and their kids is 28, and it's tracking for 30. So we won't have good data on this for literally another 10 to 15 years, because that is the difference between Alpha Gen and the millennial parents, is that there is that much of a delay between people who are my age, who are like the core of the millennials, who are just now having kids, versus their kids and what they're doing. So we won't have good data on this for a while. But at least by what we're seeing is that the parents who are becoming parents now should be, in theory, at least the most equipped to deal with this. The other side of this is that, look, I get people who are like, you know what, the government needs to like step in on this. And in a perfect society, I would 1,000% agree. But I am so tired this year of hearing about somebody who committed a mass shooting or some kind of fucking crazy heinous shit, and the government being like, well, he was on our watch list, but we just couldn't fucking do anything about it. Like the level of absolute incompetence that the government is preaching to me lately just absolutely does not make me feel that they're qualified or equipped to deal with this shit. And that was my point. Thank you.
Yo, facts. Every single one of those people is on a watch list or in a Discord server with FBI agents.
FK.
Oh yeah, what's up?
Do you want to
What's up?
respond to Ty?
Oh no, I was saying, what they have tracked for kids nowadays, right, is especially amongst Gen Z, kids have pretty much cultivated their own communities. It's not the case anymore that kids are going online and they're seeing everything. What's happening is kids are creating niche communities. They're getting involved in these niche communities, and then a lot of kids from there end up getting preyed on, because it's really easy to prey on in these niche communities if you don't have these companies tracking and making sure that these kids are safe. Right? It's easier to prey on somebody in a really small community, because it's not really going to get out to anybody else.
If I
I think the argument that Tiberius D is, though, right, is that like when I was a kid, I was in AOL chat rooms with like crazy people, right? And my parents didn't even have a concept of like the internet or like predators or like, you know, the problems that could arise from that. And while parents today may not understand the apps they're using, may not understand the dangers associated with them, they at the very least have an understanding that like that's occurring and I need to educate myself if they care enough to do so, in a way that like Gen X really didn't, like to try and steelman it a little bit.
That might be true, but again, we can't stop this all from happening. Like, it can't all be on the parents to just stop everything from happening. At some point, we have to say that the places that these people are congregating in and talking in and dealing or functioning in should have some responsibility to deal with these problems.
It seems like it'd be easier just to ban the kids, just like for the most part, just ban
actually.
them. To not deal with this, and I think that's.
I mean,
that's,
like as a parent.
But then how would I talk to them? That's the issue.
Oh boy. Let's go. let's go. We've run out of time on this particular panel, but guess what? You're in luck. We have more content for you up ahead, right? So stick around. I'm gonna give an outro to all these amazing individuals, right? That we had this great conversation with. I'm gonna outro to them, but the content does not end. We still have more content for you. We have another panel be coming on. We have this open panel where you can be a part of. So stick around, be a part of that. Jump on in. Love to have you. Exclamation social in chat for our social media, right? Hit that follow button here on Twitch. You've done so. But hit that follow button. We love to have you for our later streams. And we have Twitter where we tweet things, Discord where we do everything, including open call panel. So be a part of our Discord, and all other conversations happen there. So jump on in. TikTok is where you'll find videos related to the channel, and YouTube is where you'll find VODs, right? So hit up our YouTube channel, like, comment, and subscribe. Super chats also appreciate it. Big help. But like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, so I'm gonna give an outro to these people, but guys, remember, more content after this. Okay. So we'll go to our friend YMOK. Who's come here to educate us on the plight of the Irish, I guess. I don't know. But thank you so much. What are you? What's your what is your mix? You said you were born in England.
Oh no, I was born in so I was born in Florida. I spent like a year there. Then we went to England for 3 years. Then we went back to Florida for 4 years. Then we went to England again for like 5 years. And then my father was in the military, so we ran all over. I was in Hawaii. While I was in England, we also were stationed for a little bit in Poland and Austria and some other places, but they were the very short amounts of time. Anyway, yeah, I'm Wick. Twitch.tv/Death of Certainty. Gang, we have some banger shit coming up tomorrow. I will be joined by Not So Erudite in my call-in show. So if you want to call in and get things off your chest to me and Not So Erudite, you may tomorrow about 6:30. I maybe have to push it back a little. She's got an appointment beforehand, but we're going to get it done. Thursday, gang. Thursday, I'm going to be interviewed by Fauna of Flora, and also I'm going on some Buddy Online's panel to talk about, I'm not exactly sure what. But gang, the banger, the one you want to tune in for. Okay, Friday, 6 o'clock, I've gathered Biden's strongest warriors together. And they're going to be facing down PrimeCayes, Jeb Tan, and Beckett. So you're going to have Stardust, you're going to have IRI, you're going to have Ico-Rich. And they're all going to battle. And we're going to talk about, is Biden succeeding? Is he doing well for this country? Tune in Friday, 6 p.m. That's me. Thank you for having me, Prime. Sub to Prime. He's a great host. Give him your money, gang.
Thanks so much, Wick. Right. But understanding you're a Florida man explains so many things. But no, thank you so much. Wick's a great character, guys. Go subscribe to my man Wick's Twitch channel. It's a great guy. Let's go to Scott. Thank you, Scott, for coming through. Oh man, like strange bedfellows today. But Scott, I do appreciate you coming through.
That's why I went so hard in the first topic, because I knew you'd agree with me mostly in the second.
Okay, fair enough then. But yeah, thank you so much, Scott. Definitely do appreciate having you here. That's why I keep calling you back.
Yeah. So I am Scott from Fabian Liberty. We're an anarcho-capitalist duo stream. Engage often in libertarian philosophy. We do a bunch of interviews. Been doing some drama lately, but hopefully we can step away from that. Just doing a bunch of news and reactions and stuff. But tomorrow, if you want to get some educational content, check out tomorrow. We're going to be digging deep into McCarthyism. And the reason we're going to dig deep into McCarthyism is because none of you know what the fuck you're talking about. You have no idea who Joseph McCarthy is. You have no idea the historical facts. You guys just absorbed NPC talking points that Joseph McCarthy was bad and that he was going after people. And the reason I know this and the reason that I felt like it was so big a deal, because it's been a big thing that's popping back up from some online Twitter stuff in libertarian spaces, especially, is because if any of you knew anything about McCarthy whatsoever, you'd comment about the fact that Roy Cohn was Donald Trump's mentor. And that's what you would say about McCarthyism with your ever-loving Trump derangement syndrome. But it seems that you don't know any of those things. So if you want to come and get some educational stuff and learn about the threat of communism that was, faced and pushed back, and the Un-American Activities Committee and all that good stuff, you should come check us out tomorrow.
So much. All right, and yeah, please, Scott, you got good programming over there on this channel. Please give him a shout out. Let's go to our friend Isle. Isle, thank you for joining us and being part of this as well. Isle, tell a little about yourself.
I was shocked and appalled, Prime. I decided to join the PCNF community, and instantly I was attacked unfairly. I think, is this what it is to be a leftist? To be attacked unfairly and taken out of context for no reason by people who just want to make you seem
it's
like
fucking
the bad guy?
Isle. Yeah, Isle. This is exactly how it's like. Isle.
Yo, it's rough to be in this PCNF community. I'm sorry, I can't join you guys because you are on a mission to destruction. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna resign from that. Oh my god. Oh my god. But anyway, like I said, like speaking of the topics, I think that as people, we have to look out for ourselves and look out for our families because they're the ones that give us the most purpose in life and the most satisfaction and joy of being in love, our families and our close friends. And so I think it's not necessarily a beyond the pale to ask and expect that to be a good parent, to like just keep tabs on your children every once in a while, check in with them, say, hey, how you guys doing, blah 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 blah. Don't drugs are bad, okay? Gang violence bad, okay? And all sorts of stuff. And then try and steer them away from those negative influences in life and actually try and steer them towards something positive by implanting your own personal values and morals into them, because you, as their parents, they usually trust and respect you if you're a trustable and respectable individual. So I think that that's fine. And on the first topic, you know what, I think I can stand on what I said already. I don't think I need to go into it. So yeah, you can find me on DeviantArt, you can find me on Pixiv, and yeah, I'm Isle of Isles.
Gotcha. Our friend Tiberius. Tiberius, thanks for coming in and joining us. Tell a little about yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite. This panel didn't go anything like what I expected, and so anything I prepared for pretty much went out the door within 30 seconds of the opening topics. So I apologize for that. I'll have to be a little bit more on my feet. But if you guys are actually interested in the guy who was largely mute this fucking episode, I do a lot of work regarding panels on this on the site. Me and Wick actually had done a panel right before the show. We were talking about, is purity testing a good thing or a bad thing? I actually largely argued that it was. And if you are interested in checking that out, you can check that out on Wick's channel on Twitch, or you're gonna see it on my YouTube channel tomorrow. Regarding all the other stuff that I do, basically it's pretty short and simple. I talk about geopolitics. My famous works regarding this is The Generating of Wealth and Why Certain Countries Are Rich and Poor. Definitely recommend checking that out on YouTube. I talk about the worldwide demography and how basically Europe's turning into an old folks' home and the developing world is now following suit. It's just going to change everything. And I just finished, while we were doing this particular panel, the future of green energy presentation and how really it's the impossible future. And so if any of that is interesting to you, check out my Twitch, check out my YouTube. I will have all this content available for you soon. And Prime, thank you for inviting me once again. I will try to bring my A game next time, because wow, this one just threw me for a loop. But yeah, without further ado, it's a pleasure to see you all again, and I hope to see you again soon.
Lactoid. I need to apologize to the Swedes here, right? I feel like you didn't get representation. I didn't even think of you. I had all my thoughts about Black people and Latin individuals and Asian individuals, right? I didn't think of the Swedes, right? When we were going to think of the Swedes. So I apologize.
We're going to talk about it on our next panel of All Swede Everything, where only Swedish people are allowed and we all talk about issues affecting Swedish people. Big thanks to you, Prime, for having me on. Big thank you to everybody here who talked to me. Some parting thoughts. I am now looking forward to watching the James Franco movie. Didn't actually hear about it until Prime contacted me, but now I look forward to watching white James Franco play white Fidel Castro. As to the second topic, I think we need to protect our children. The way to do this is not through government surveillance or mass liability, but through age gates. We don't expect the government to watch people that are in a strip club or bar. We just don't let children into those communities, and we let adults do what they want. Therefore, ban all children from porn sites, ban messaging between adults and children on social media, and create children's communities and regulate the content within those children's communities. I agree McCarthy is good. I also believe the Vietnam War was justified, and we would have won if it wasn't for the fucking hippies who fucked us and led Vietnam to the Dark Ages. Again, thank you, everybody. You can find me on Anti-Communism United on Discord and Twitch.
Wow, and he just drops a bomb like that, as they did on, Vietnamese children. But okay,
Mostly
so-
Laos. Mostly Laos.
Obviously, they didn't drop a note.
A lot of Laotians died.
that reminds me though, when you talked about the movie, is that I want to give a recommendation, guys. Watch Prey. It's on Hulu, right? Prey. It's a new Predator movie, Prey. I just watched that last night. It was fantastic. Good example
good?
of Native American representation. It was so good. It was the best Predator movie since the original Predator. It's so good. I loved it. Take a look at it, guys. All right, let's go to our friend Sprouticus. Sprouticus, thanks for coming through. Right, like Sprouticus. I didn't mean it before. Right, you're a true American here. All right. Sprouticus doesn't come on talking about his background, right? And like, oh, I'm Swedish American. No, he puts that flag out there, and that flag says everything about him. All right, you don't need to know anything else. All right. So Sprouticus, the true American, thanks for being here, buddy.
Hey, not a problem. I think I've said as much as I can on the first topic. With the second topic, it's not just hey, don't do drugs, and they expect your kid not to do drugs. That's not exactly the way that one works. Society has proven over and over and over again that's not the way that works. Kids sneak out in the middle of the night and go to parties. This happens. Kids sneak out in the middle of the night and do a whole bunch of shit. This happens. So putting the 100% onus on the parents for something that they literally cannot be held to. This is a standard that you are trying to hold parents to that is just unreliable. You cannot hold any parent to this standard unless you expect the kid to be in jail at home. That you may literally make the home a prison. But other than that, you can find me at the Sprouticus on Twitch, the Sprouticus on Twitter, and hope I can talk to you guys again soon.
Thank you. All right.
Hello.
Next
So
we
this
have
is it's me.
oh,
Yeah.
next we have FK.
God damn it. God damn it.
Next we have FK. FK, thank you for being new. And joining us. God damn it. Thank you. We actually really enjoyed having you. We're definitely gonna have you on in the future. We'd love to. You were passionate. You were well spoken. Exactly the type of people we're looking for. So thanks so much, buddy.
Thank you for having me on. Do you actually want me to go, or do you want Doobie to?
No, you can go.
Because those eyes are really staring at me. All right. What's up, y'all? I'm just average FK on Twitch. I go by FK though normally. I've had a lot of fun talking to you guys. I know I was yelling with some of you. I know shit got heated. It was really fun though. At the end of the day, I think what it truly means to be an American is to care about your neighbor, right? And I don't think you just have to be an American. Like, I'm going to say it, right? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think no matter where you are in the world, in your heart, there's a little American flag. And that flag will continue to expand over time. And it just means you're free. It means you truly have the will to fight for what's right. And what's right is not letting kids get raped on the internet. That's all I'm saying. Thank you guys. It's been fun. Prime, thank you so much for having me, an absolute nobody on here.
That's all right. Most of these people are nobodies. Let's go to, for fuck's sakes. DB, what the? Dark Lord and Saver, we love you, but like, what the shit?
Well, this is one of the esteemed users of our server, having a ton of fun talking to random people about shit nobody knows about. It's a great time. If you want to find me, you'll find me there. We will be having an AMA with Haas, Infrared, notorious genocidal tanky this weekend. That should be a good time. And yeah, discord.gg/politics or just politics.gg if you want to do it from your browser. That's where you'll find me. It's a
Expect
great
for
time.
Doobie in chat for that link. So yeah, that's what you can
And to be
expect.
clear,
Yeah.
this was like one of our esteemed mods who will watch your activity, watch every fucking thing you do. We're gonna track everything, record everything. It's a beautiful place.
To keep the kids safe, he does it for, right? To keep the kids safe.
Exactly.
Uh,
Well, actually, Doobie does it to target the kid.
I'm a huge fan of my man Doobie. Guys, go check out his setup there in the Pause's Discord server. It's a lot of fun, and if you like arguing with people, right? If you're like Scott, if you're anything like Scott, you should enjoy your time there, right? So, let's go. Oh, okay. I got to get out of here before he puts more of that shit on. So thank you all for being here. Much appreciated. We are going to go into open walk on panel. Anyone can join in. And if you are welcome here, but if not, that's okay. Thanks for spending your time, your energy, your knowledge, and your passion, my community. I know they appreciate just as much as I do. Have a good one. Bye. Oh,
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I got
that sucked.